negative fractions, I have -1/5 plus 3/5. I'm still adding and subtracting fractions. So do I need to change my denominator? No?
They're already the same.
They're already the same. Can I rewrite this?
You good?
I can. Do those mean the same thing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So 3 minus 1 is 2/5. So if I'm adding and subtracting, I can rewrite it. What's the rule to rewrite? What do I need to make sure I do?
Keep the signs the same.
Keep the signs the same. So if my 1/5 is the negative, I need to make sure that it stays the negative over here.
You do that by subtracting that fraction from the other.
Right. So this, since this is just an addition problem, I can rewrite it. Like 2 plus 5 is the same as 5 plus 2. This is the same idea. So what if I take 3/5 times a -1/5? What do I need to do multiplying negative fractions? Still multiplication, so I go straight across. So 3 times 1 is 3. And 5 times 5, 25.
That's a negative because you times things.
Okay, I've got a negative here. I need to make sure that carries through. I can write it up there. I can write it down here. Or I can write it in front of them both. They all mean the same thing. So it doesn't matter where I write the negative as long as I carry the negative through. Will 3/25 reduce at all? No. Okay. What if this was a double negative? So I have a -1 over a -5.
Same thing.
Same thing, carry it through. So 1 times 3 is 3. 5 times 5 is 25. What happens when I have double negatives? It turns into a positive. So then negatives cancel each other out. And I have a positive 3/25. Or I'll end up with the same thing if I had -3/5 times -1/5. So 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 5 is 25. And what happens when I times a negative by a negative? It becomes positive.
If you have a fraction that's got a negative sign on the numerator and the denominator,
On both.
on both, then that cancels out and becomes a positive.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to figure it practically. What's the difference between a negative with the negative just on the top, -1, and a +5? How does that apply to the real world? I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. A negative, to me, a -1/5 would be a -1/5, but now you're making it a double -1/5. It's just,
You'll run into that sometimes when we simplify complex fractions. You'll end up with double negatives as terms canceling each other out.
So in other words, if it helps you, in that math problem she just did where it shows the -3/5 times -1/5, if the -3 if it would have been negative 3/5, and then on the next one, the negative sign would have been on the lower half of the 5 instead of the 1, you would add the 3 times positive 1, negative 3 times positive 1 would have became negative 3, and 5 times negative 5 would have became negative 25, so both fractions would have ended up with a negative in front of them naturally, and then they cancel themselves out to make them both positive.
So double negatives cancel and turn into a positive, and we'll get to that in a few minutes as we simplify some more complex fractions. But it's always safe to carry your signs through to the end and make sure cancel where it needs to be canceled.
Is that negative on the bottom?
Negative 1, yeah.
The bottom one.
Exactly.
So how about subtracting negative fractions? I have 4/9 minus a negative 2/9.
Two negatives cancel. Like plus 2 numbers.
Okay, my
That'll be
two
times.
negatives turn into a
Minus 2.
positive. 6/9. Will that simplify
Yes.
into what?
2/3.
2/3. Both are divisible by 3. 4/9 minus a negative 2/9 turns into 2/3. What if I had 4/9 divided by negative 2/9? What do I do there? What happens when I'm dividing fractions? What's the first step?
Flip it.
Flip it. So I'll have 4/9 times negative 9/2. Now what?
Or cross cancel.
Okay, I can simplify at this step. So the 9s and the 9s both turn into 1s. How about the 2 and the 4?
And you go 2 and 1.
Okay, 2 goes into itself once, and it goes into 4 twice. So I end up with 2 times 1, 2 over 1 times 1, 1.
That's a negative, so it becomes a negative 2 final answer.
A negative 2 over 1 or a negative 2. Bart.
Up above when you started that problem, you had a negative 2,
Mhm.
and then when you flip them, you put the negative stays on top.
It doesn't matter. So if the negative's on top, if the negative's on bottom, or if it's right in the middle, all 3 of these mean the same thing.
So it's just a negative number. It's a negative whole number almost at
It's
2/9?
a negative number, and I need to
That's
carry
right.
that negative through somehow. And it's pretty much a matter of opinion, wherever you like to write your negative signs.
It doesn't make a difference. Well, it's only one negative.
But if it's a double, but you could make that a double negative. You could put a bit negative on the 2 and the 9, and that
So,
would change.
right, if it was a double negative, then what happens with double negatives?
If it's a positive.
Okay, turns into a positive.